Page 54, Reflection. Another Walt Disney flick thingy. Starts out in C major. We'll go into other keys later on. We'll get there. Hang in there. Gonna start with the right hand. Again, you're working this out one hand at a time. If you have to, get the notes in the fingering first, and then you can go back and get the rhythm. For the sake of these videos, I tend to combine those two in one spot. So at the beginning, we have this. And this can be awkward, this thirds, when you're doing this. But it's important you develop this ability. So just take it slow and easy, one at a time. You just think about the next notes you're going to play. And again, I'm using the weight to do this. So I'm dropping the wrist just a little bit. When I'm actually doing it, you can't hardly tell it, but I am. So I'm just raising the wrist up to do the next note, and then I raise the wrist up to do the next note, and the weight is actually pushing the notes down. I'm just changing the finger positions. So I'm not using finger muscle to push it down. That's a good way to get tendonitis. I don't recommend it. So there, and then lift up and put your fifth finger on the E. Connect this top note as best you can. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Third measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. They have these anticipations going on where you're playing the second note quicker than you expect to. 1 and 2 and 3. It's 1, 2, 4 on that one. And then here, and 2. And then lift up. It's the end of a phrase. And then connect all that. That's what we want. And then do you lift up. They say third finger because you're going to go here, 5, 2. That's fine. There's other ways we could do it. I could do second finger and 4, 2, but that's good too. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Got a lot of tied notes going on here. You think playing the second note, you're just hanging on to the first. So that last measure, you're playing it early. It's 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and rest and third line. Why don't they have the D on all those notes? I don't know, but they don't. I'm connecting the melodies, the top note. And then it goes on, you've already had that. The third line last measure, 1 and your two voices are going on because the C, the stem's going down, that's one voice, and the top voice stem's going. And then the last beat, you hold the F down while you play the D. And then go on. Now we're changing key signature into E flat major. Oh goody. They're here. It's basically the same thing, it's just transposed into E flat major. Major. You know what I mean. But if this fingering is awkward because the black key pushes you up here and you got fat fingers, then you have to adjust that. How do you do that? Well, it's up to you. I can do here, here. I can do it 2, 3, 1, 4, and 3, 5, or whatever. Or if you find some other fingering that works, go for it. Just use their fingering here is fine if you want to. If you can't do on the second measure there, the last beat, if you can't do a 1, 3, do a 2, 3, and then 1, 4. And the last two notes, I recommend a 2, 5, 1, 4. Here, if you can. You can get away with using thumb on both, it's just unnecessary. This is quite common and I recommend it. Top of page 55, C flat. It's just an eighth note. I do a 1, 2, 3 on that chord and then the 5. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and then lift up and go up. And for the last measure, the first line, I do a 1, 4, 3, 2. and then lift up and go on. Connect here, connect that. That's the melody. And then here, 1, 2, 3, and this is the third measure, the second line on page 55. And then a 5 if you can. And then 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2. I'm just trying to connect the melody with the fingers. I mean, their fingering is fine. I just like to connect the melody with the fingers. Going on, third line. I do a 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 5, and then lift up and go on. 1, 2, 4. You see the little notes? The 2 quarter notes? It's here. Again, they're accommodating 2 sets of words. There's two verses there. So the first time you play it as a half note. The second time you play 2 quarter notes. So the C and the E flat are still half notes. But the F, so you have to play the E flat again. Like so. And then going the first ending, C flat. And that C flat is good for the measure. So that's a C flat, B flat, or E flat later. Next line, the fourth line. It's a little confusing the way it's written. In the fourth line down, first measure, you have a whole notes. You're supposed to hold those down for the whole measure. You can't, but the pedal will help you out. Because the last 3/8 notes in the top staff, they show the stems going down, and my first inclination is, okay, the left hand will cover it. Well, in this case, it doesn't work out real well. I mean, you can do it with left hand. You can get the left hand and still hold that half note down. I mean, it works, but then you got to come down here. So the right hand's going to play those 8th notes. So you're going to lift up off the whole note. You're going to keep the sound because the pedal is staying down. They're showing you the voice goes, if somebody's singing it, they're going to sing whole notes. And the right hand then comes down to play those. And then second measure there, 2 voices going on, watch them. Hold the B flat down, and then lift up. And then you go back into C major again. Sort of how it goes. Then at the bottom there's a repeat sign that goes back over to the reverse repeat sign at the bottom of page 54. Then when you come back on 55 again the second time, the third line down, you're going to skip that first ending and immediately go to the next page, which is the second ending. So on page 56 we're here, and then they say a 1, 3. That's fine. And for the last note of the first line is third finger, and then 1, 4 or 2, 4 if you can reach it. And I do a 1, 2, 3 on the second line, second measure. We've had this before. I'm just connecting the melody is all. Third line, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 5, and then move up. Third line, second measure, C flat. That C flat goes all the way across the measure. And thumb on the last E flat, because you got to go up on the fourth line. I can do a 1, 2, 4 on that, the C, E flat, G, so it's here. And then I can do a 3, and then here, the melody. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. A natural. So from out of there, you're going to hang on to it and lift up before going on, and then you go up here. And I do a third finger on that 8th note G, the last note in the measure. And then you can do a 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 4, either one. 4 works better. Last line, C flat. And the last notes in that first measure, the last line, that's still a C flat. And then the 8th notes come down. The fingering is good. This is the standard fingering for this arpeggio, and I highly recommend it. Like so. The fingering for the chord, 1, 2, 4, it's the same fingering as for the arpeggio. Yeah. Then while all that's going on, the left hand's got its little party going. It's here, 1 and 2 at the beginning of page 54. 1 and 2 and 3 and just follow their fingering. Gotta love those A flats. That takes us down to the last line on page 54. We're in E flat major, 3 flats, broken chords. You have to look down because the movements are awkward, but you only have to glance down, and the right hand isn't moving around that much, so it's okay. I use second finger on the last note on page 54 at the bottom, because then I can go here at the top of page 55. And then this fingering in the second measure, I don't like doing this 2-1, 2-1 thing. I don't like going from a black note crossing over to get a white key. That's awkward. You have to do it sometimes, but we don't have to do it here. I can do this 1, 3, 2, and then I can cross over. Same thing in the next measure. Like so, and that's what I recommend you do. So, second line, last measure on page 55. That's a C flat. All the way across the measure, C flat. And the third line, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1. We're sort of connecting the bottom. And I do a 4 on the B flat, because I can cross over here. And then, so forth. Last measure, that third line. I do a 4, 2. This is part of an arpeggio, and that's the standard fingering for that arpeggio, so that's just what I do out of habit. But there's nothing wrong with the fingering they're offering. I'm just giving alternatives. Again, 1 at the 4th line down. 1, 3, 2, and then we're back to C major. Last line on page 55. You're here. Second measure. I like this fingering very much. I like that fingering. Yes, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then you're going to repeat back, etc. On page 56 at the top, again, broken chords. You get those. Second line, last measure, C flats, both chords. And then the third line, we're connecting the bottom note again. And the third line, last measure, I recommend a 5, 3, 2, 1. I don't cross over at all. And then 5, the 4th line down, 5. You can do a 4 or a 3, either one. And then here. And then the chord. In the first measure, the 4th line, the last beat, it's an A natural, because there's an A flat in the key signature, so you got A natural. E flat, G. And you're going to roll that with the right hand, all 6 at a time, and I play the bottom note on the beat, but you can however. And there's a ritardando here. I'll get back to this a little bit later, so how fast you roll this chord is up to you. Then going on, we got octaves. And then the last measure, the fourth line. 5, 1, 5, 3, 2, 1. I don't have to cross over the thumb. That's a chord. That's fine. We can do that. And then last line. 5, 3, 2, 1. And then cross over. The second measure. 5, 3, 2, 1, 2. And then the last. So work all that out one hand at a time and get it. And then you put the hands together very carefully. And try, remember, to bring out the melody. That means the left hand's got to stay soft. So at the beginning, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2. First line, last measure on page 54. It's 1 and 2 and. It's like eighth notes all the way up. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Then lift the right hand up, so you have a phrase, and go on. See the tied notes? They'll get you. Change keys. Again, you just have to work out this rhythm very carefully because it's just tricky. The last line. On top of page 55. In the second measure, you're holding the G and the E flat down. You got to get off the G because the left hand needs it. So you get off it a little bit early. Don't get off it too soon, but get off it because the left hand has to play it. It has a half note coming up. Get off it here. Third line. First ending. Then repeat. Again. Let's jump over to page 56 here at the top. And again, I've had this before. C flats. On that last note, next fourth line. So if I'm doing this at this speed, 1, 2, 3 that I've been doing, so this is the third line. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the fourth line is at that speed. 1, 2. Now there is a retardando there, so you can slow that down. And on this roll, you feel the roll on how fast to roll it. So how much are you slowing down in this retardando? It's a It's up to you on how fast you're going to roll this, and it's a fermata. You're going to hang on to it and then lift up so there's silence before we go on, and then it's all tempo. So we're back to our 1. And then in the last line there's a diminuendo y retardando, dimirit. Get softer and slow down. So don't get soft here. Get soft as you go through the line. You're still up at your mezzo forte, or actually you're at fortissimo there on the all tempo. This is like the climax of the piece here. Now that's the melody, so don't get too carried away with the left hand. And then in the last line, the demi-rit, well, you're starting out fortissimo. And then you'll progress down and plan where you're going to be where. So it's fortissimo, now maybe forte, now sort of loud, now sort of soft, now maybe soft in here. And that goes down to a sort of soft. You can go down softer than that if you want. It's a personal thing. It's up to you on planning out getting softer on this last line and slowing down, so you have to do both. Get all that worked out. Then we add the pedal. Oh boy. And once again, they got you legato pedaling everything. And I would recommend you change the pedal a little more often, get rid of some of the blurriness, and then sometimes you don't even need the pedal on maybe a beat or two here and there. You can lift it up, you don't need it if you want to hear a rest or something like that. So it's a personal thing. The pedaling they're giving you is only a suggestion. And I don't agree with just automatically legato pedaling everything. The idea is pedal as little as possible. But they like it to be all blurry and all the overtones on it and lovey-dovey and all that. So at the beginning, it's all overlap pedaling. It's lagging the pedal. The pedal lags behind the hands, so it's here. See, they're changing it right there. And that's fine. Here, on the second measure, I don't even need the pedal on the last beat here, because I'm holding the notes down, so it's here. The third measure, they're changing the pedal with the right hand. But then in the fourth measure, they keep it down for the whole measure. What? No. If you're going to change the pedal in the third measure like that, change the pedal in the fourth measure the same way. And then lift it up, and I would not pedal the last beat. So work out this pedaling real carefully, because it's not where you think it's going to be. And like in the second line, last measure, I would lift the pedal up on the last beat, so I hear a rest in the right hand. And in the third line, last measure, I wouldn't pedal until I play the F in the right hand. And then going on. You on the pedaling, I'm more or less pedaling like they're shown, but experiment with the pedal and leave it out in some of these cases. Second line on page 55. End of the second line on page 55, I lift the pedal with the hands so we get silence before we go to the third. It's a new phrase, so it's here. The last measure of the second line is there. Now lift up. extra pedaling on the third line down, second measure, the whole measure, that's still every 2 beats there. In the first ending, and the fourth line down, second measure, I wouldn't pedal the last beat. You're coming back to the, it's a new phrase. Again, at the bottom of the page 55, I lift the pedal up with the hands so we get silence before we repeat. It's a new phrase. So the last measure on page 55. Etc. You have to experiment with that. Now on page 56, same style as we've been doing. It's again, at the end of the second line, I lift the pedal up with the hands so we get silence before we go to the next phrase. At the second measure of the third line, I pedal every 2 beats. The last measure of the third line, I'd pedal every 2 beats. I kind of like to have, on the fourth line down, first measure, I think I kind of like to have every beat pedaled separately, but I'll leave that up to you. If I do it separately, it's this way. If I go ahead and do it the way they're doing it, it's this way. It just catches all of that. Yeah. And then I lift up before I go on. And in the last measure on that fourth line, I would pedal every beat again. So it's, I mean, I know it's loud, I just don't want too much loudness. And then in the last line, I don't push the pedal in the last line, second measure. I don't push the pedal down until I play the B flat, the E flat. I finger pedal the first notes in the left hand. Finger pedaling means you hold the notes down longer than they're written, so you keep the sound going. In other words, you're pedaling with the fingers. So in the left hand, I'm holding all those down together because I don't want to push the pedal down until I play the B flat. So I'm holding the E flat down, so it's here. And then I can lift up, because by then the pedal's down. Because if I lift up on here and I don't have the pedal down, I lose that note. I don't want to do that, so it's here. So I do that. Then you're saying pedal here. I'm tempted to pedal that last half note. I'm tempted to pedal that separate too, to get rid of all this other sound, because we want to die away. So it's here, the last 2 measures. See, and I do that way, and that way it helps the sound die away a little more, and then the pedal and the hands all come up at the same time. It's a beautiful piece. Try it out. Hard arrangement. This is a challenging piece.